Have you ever caught yourself acting just like the narcissist who raised you? That happens to me every now and then, and it always makes me sick. It has been years since I figured out what he was. It's been years since I started understanding the effects that he had on me, how he warped my mind and damaged me at my core. And every time I start thinking that I've already dealt with the lingering legacy of his dysfunction, I see something in myself that reminds me that he is still inside me in ways that might never change. And I have to constantly watch for bits and pieces of his dysfunctional programming to come out in me. I was driving home from work this evening, and I was going over all the things I still needed to do for the day. And I suddenly thought of something nice for some person who I barely know, something nice that I could do for somebody. All by itself, the thing that I was thinking about would be a good thing, something I could be proud of. But something clicked in my mind, and I realized my motivation for what I was thinking. There was some small thing I had done that I don't feel good about. Some small thing that I wouldn't want to admit to you or to anybody else, but which I regret doing. Something small that I'm ashamed of. And the good deed that I had thought about doing was nothing but a way for me to make myself look good to someone else and to myself. Even though nobody would draw any connection between me doing something nice for that person and this private act that nobody knows about, I knew it. And I knew why I thought about doing it. I wanted to cover up my inner shame by doing something that would allow me to pat myself on the back. I wanted to do something that would let me tell myself, see, I'm really a good person after all. We all prefer to put ourselves in the best light possible for other people to see. There are some things about our inner thoughts and our inner private acts that we prefer to hide from others because those things don't match what we want others to think about us. So there's some form of this that happens in everyone. Nobody is eager to share his dirty secrets with the world. But the reason this particular thing bothered me so much is that it sounded exactly like something that my father would have done long ago. He was great at justifying himself. He was fantastic at presenting a picture to the world of a man who was morally and ethically beyond reproach. And there are times when I can do exactly the same thing. I talked with you a while back about the millions of dollars that my father embezzled from an employer. With some of this money, he certainly did things for himself. He built himself his dream house on, a couple 100 acres, something like that. He bought a luxurious lifestyle for himself at the time. But there was something else odd that he did with the money he stole. He gave a lot of it away. I know of cases of people who were in great need, who my father helped. I remember someone who was related to us, for instance, who got into some serious legal problems because of some theft he committed at work. problems that were attributed to this person's addiction to a substance. My father helped work out some kind of deal for this person to go to an expensive drug rehab program, which he paid for, in exchange for this person being given another chance. But he didn't want anyone to know that he's the one who paid for it. He bought things that our church needed, books for the library, for instance, and other things, and he never wanted others to know that he was involved. For years, there were people coming to him for help when they were in trouble, and he used money that he had stolen to help them get out of trouble. When I found out about all of this years ago, I instinctively understood what he had been doing. And I understand it even more clearly now that I see some of this dysfunctional programming in myself. My father had done something which he knew was wrong, and he was trying to make it up to himself. He wasn't really trying to make things right with other people. He was ashamed of himself, and giving his stolen money to help other people, at least some of it, was his way of trying to convince himself that he was still a good person. Now, I haven't done the sorts of things that my father did. I'm not betraying the trust of people who believe in me. I'm not stealing and buying myself the life of my dreams. But just like everybody else, I do things and I think things at times that I know are wrong. There are things about myself that make me feel shame. And just like my father, there's a part of me that wants to do things to make myself look like a good person to others. But when I think about the things he did, and when I think about the way that I feel in similar circumstances, I know that the primary audience for this sort of show is not other people. His primary audience was himself. My primary audience is myself. He was trying to convince himself that he was the decent, honest, and moral person who he had always thought himself to be, someone who could be excused for his theft of millions of dollars. For me, it's not exactly the same thing. When I feel shame, I want to do something good so I can believe I'm good, that I can believe that I am morally upright and perfect. When I was growing up with my narcissistic father, the only standard for me was perfection. If I did anything wrong, I was taught to feel immense shame about myself. And I had to work harder and harder to make up for any imperfections that were exposed. Despite the fact that I feel as though I've overcome much of the programming that he put into me, there is a part of me that's still operating by the same old rules. And I sometimes don't see it until I catch myself acting just as he might have acted. I know that I will never be perfect. I know that I'll always do things and think things that don't show me to be the person I want to be. I know all of that intellectually, but I hope the day will come that I can truly set aside my father's programming. I hope the day will come that I can extend the grace to myself to know that I'm just an imperfect human being who's doing the best he can. I don't like finding these remnants of my father's old narcissistic programming inside me. But I'd rather find them and face them instead of letting them control me in ways that they have for most of my life. I have a long way to go to be the person who I still want to be. But I hope I still have plenty of time to work on becoming the best human being and the best child of God that I can possibly become.